Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaronism back with another video for you today. Asking the question, do you believe in magic? Well, that's where I'll start. How you gotta believe if you want to be smart. 'Cause it's magic. And they fooled us with movies. And if you question its reality, well, then they'll call you a loony. But once you know it's magic, well, it'll free your soul. And we can all join together with a common goal. Like getting rid of these good-for-nothing, pathetic, Masonic lying a-holes. No. Hell no. In space? No. I said no. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, do you believe in magic? I'll be asking that throughout this video. That very question, do you believe in magic? To begin, let's watch this joint Soviet and U.S. mission.
Mid-July 1975. An American Apollo spacecraft and a Soviet Soyuz spacecraft prepare to join in Earth orbit, 140 miles above the Atlantic near Portugal.
So I have to ask already, do you believe in magic? Because if you are believing what you see in front of you right now, well, you believe in magic. Let the magic begin with
the mission of Apollo Soyuz.
From these rocket launches done with miniatures in a studio or sent out into the ocean, can you recognize when you're being fooled? I mean, real is real. Yes, older video will look, well, old, but it doesn't mean that the video should look fake. We need to be able to call a spade a spade. In this world, they force you to ignore the obvious fraud by stating that you can only be considered smart or an intellectual if you learn to decide what is real and what isn't, based on what you're told.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. The countdown has proceeded smoothly this morning, and the flight crew here at the Kennedy Space Center were alerted about 10:30. They're right now in the suit room at the Manned Spacecraft Operations Building.
So, they need your buy-in. They need you emotionally connected to the lie they are telling. It's like a movie, but one they will convince the world is actually real. It's not, but many unknowing observers believe what they are told to believe.
Made to order for the thousands lining the roadsides and beaches to witness this Apollo Saturn finale.
Because if you witness it, if your grandfather made a fuel bracket for the Saturn V, if you watched it on TV or saw it in a newspaper or heard about it at school, well, they have your buy-in. And if you saw it in person, well, how can you be any more emotionally invested than that? You saw Apollo launch. Your great-uncle was part of the satellite station tracking at Goldstone. Your cousin's best friend's sister's nanny used to eat at a restaurant where a guy who once worked in mission control used to eat.
Engine ready, light on. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Engine sequence start. 1, 0. Launch commit. We have a liftoff. All engines building up thrust. Moving out. Clear the tower.
Roger, tower clear. Roger, Tom, you got good thrust on all engines. You're right on the money. 30 seconds. We're on the way. Stand by for mode 1, Bravo.
I mean, do you believe in magic? Do you believe this? The guys on the rocket talk as clear as can be despite the rocket engines firing right under them.
Go.
And before the flight is 3 hours old, the docking module is smoothly extracted from the second stage booster, left trailing behind. During the next 40 hours, Apollo, through a series of maneuvers, will slowly close the orbital gap with Soyuz. The two crews will meet again, not as members of this or that nationality, but as friends who for 3 years shared their separate cultures and customs.
I mean, look at this crap. Do you believe in the magic of movies?
In the United States, I want to visit Hollywood.
Alexei Leonov, Soyuz commander.
Because I want to be a movie star.
Colonel in the Soviet Air Force.
No, I don't want. Tom Stafford want.
Well, that's what these guys became. Movie stars, doing science. Yeah, so many science experiments.
On Soyuz 6, he successfully performed the first welding experiments in the zero gravity of space.
What has spaceflight done for humanity? What did Apollo Soyuz do for the people of the world?
Rounding out the American crew, Vance Brand, civilian, aeronautical engineer, former test pilot.
A civilian? Former test pilot? Do not be fooled by the idea of civilians when it comes to astronauts.
As this was a time of mission preparation, it also brought together engineering and technical specialists from both sides. Constituted a specific goal of the Soviet-American space agreement signed in Moscow in 1972 by the chief executives of both nations.
So one can probably see that this is nothing but a trick. All the world's a stage, especially anything involving Richard Nixon.
Apparently the TPI maneuver was indeed successful. Tom Stafford reported from Apollo that he was station keeping with Soyuz.
Hello, Houston. Can you see the Soyuz? He's hidden behind the docking module. Here he comes, just above the docking module. Looks real pretty. Good show. Let's see that. Look at that.
I'm approaching Soyuz.
Oh, please don't forget about your engine.
Less than 5 meters distance.
3 meters.
3 meters.
13 meters.
1 meter. Contact. Capture. We also have capture.
Again, I have to ask, do you believe in magic? I mean, honestly, in your heart of hearts, can you be fooled so easily? Because nowadays, I can see how you might be fooled. But when we look back at these fraudsters from not too long ago, are you able to recognize what took place and what happened to people who were overly trusting?
Around the world, millions watch and listen as the two spacecraft become one. Now they wait for the next dramatic event, the meeting of Soviet and American crews.
All right, auto show. Hawk provide you loop 3. Okay, the camera. Ah! That's it. Got it? Okay, it'll stay open.
So yeah, they got people emotionally involved in their scientific advancements for the betterment of all mankind. The country that we were in the middle of the Cold War with also joins with our astronauts for a joint mission in space. This is all a crafty storyline played out during the ups and downs of some parabolic flights by people who think they know better than you do what you should believe in. Like this conversation between astronauts and the president.
The astronauts are on the line, sir.
Gentlemen, let me call to express my very great admiration for your hard work, your total dedication in preparing for this first joint flight.
It's taken us many years to open this door to useful cooperation in space between our two countries. And I'm confident that the day is not far off when space missions made possible
by this first joint effort will be more or less commonplace.
And may I say, in signing off,
here's to a soft landing.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Of course, that was not a real conversation. That was a pre-recorded message by Ford, played for the astronauts and to the viewer at home. But to the viewer, it's an all-out deception, a lie, a fabrication. There was no truth in what was being done. It was symbolic, just like the coin they symbolically joined in space.
Apollo Soyuz medal. One half launched with Soyuz and the other half with Apollo. to symbolize the link.
Symbolic, perhaps, but really what they are celebrating is a mass deception, a purposeful dumbing down of the public.
At acquisition here, we should have confirmation of undocking and a real-time television picture of Soyuz from Apollo as it backs away in preparation for the solar eclipse experiment.
And so again, I have to ask, do you believe this? Do you believe in magic? What is so clear and as obvious as the nose on your face is that this is so easily seen by anyone still capable of thought. Anyone who can make up their own mind can see that this is clearly a fraud. It's fake. This image here is supposed to be Apollo blocking the sun, emulating a solar eclipse. Sure.
They docked again.
Oh no. It looked like it was docking, but then it started to fall off.
Apollo, Houston, it was a beautiful docking. We had a good picture. We can see Italy coming up in the Mediterranean right now.
Oh, never mind. I guess it's all good now. So we can watch more of these miniature models in a black warehouse. Or do some of you still believe in magic? Do you really believe this is in space? Do you trust these men that much?
After some 3 hours, the two spacecraft separate for the last time, and Apollo maneuvers into position for the final joint experiment.
Wait a second. Why does the craft easing away look identical to the craft arriving earlier? Well, that's easy. Put them together, and it's clear. They're just playing the miniature model video in reverse. You can even see where the Earth goes in one direction, and then it is simply played in reverse and the Earth goes the other way. These kind of tricks worked in the 70s. Now why do we still allow them today? Why can't we call out fake what is clearly fake? Why are we so afraid of what others think when you can just watch what they are showing you and clearly say fake? Look carefully at the stick in front of the Soyuz here. See it there? This, folks, is an obvious fraud. But to be smart in this world, you better believe in magic.
It is the first such measurement by this method. The results have given investigators a clearer knowledge of outer atmospheric makeup, including the quantities of ozone in the upper atmosphere.
They give you no choice to trust your eyes or to trust evidence or your senses. Nope, you better believe in space or you're a moron, an uneducated fool. Because men say this is real, and what do you know? You're not capable of determining real from fake. You've got no right questioning a place you've never seen or never been.
Not since the first landing on the moon 6 years earlier has the Houston News Center seen this much press activity.
You better also believe that the Houston news desk was so busy that this guy had to talk on 2 phones. That's crazy busy.
Through highly refined instruments, they look out in our galaxy and beyond. A new source of radiation is found, the extreme ultraviolet, which many scientists thought would remain forever invisible. Others felt it didn't exist at all. The discovery ranks high in importance and may open a new branch of astronomy for studying the universe.
Yes, through highly refined instruments, as you can see on the screen now, we can see things never seen before. Isn't it obvious that the only thing that has changed is their level of trickery? Now we have great, beautiful images of galaxies and nebulas, the solar corona, the Magellanic Clouds, the blue globulars, all of it a story to keep you believing in magic. But if you just take the time to think, you will clearly see that we have all been fooled. It's all a hoax. It's all a show, put on by men who think they know better than you what you should and should not believe.
As the mission comes down to the wire, the docking module is jettisoned, and it too becomes part of an experiment. With the two instrumented spacecraft close together in the same orbit, it is possible to measure their relative movements caused by variations in Earth's gravity. The technique provides a means of accurately mapping the Earth's mass structure on a global basis.
Wait a second, we gotta watch this again. So the docking module is jettisoned and then they measure their relative movements caused by variations in Earth's gravity. And this provides a means of accurately mapping Earth's mass on a global basis. No.
Pulsing is flight controllers. ECOM reports everything looks fine.
Go for the burn.
Okay, Crip, everything's up. Great shape up here. The only thing we're concerned about is that you've got all your splashdown parties coordinated, over.
Well, I've been working on that.
Okay, sounds good.
Up here they come through the atmosphere. Don't burn up from that plasma. Squeeze through. Those parachutes opened perfectly. Didn't burn up in the atmosphere or anything. Let's see them coming out of the sky. Oh, great. So, from Mercury, Gemini, and on to Apollo, they have been fooling us over and over again, and it's really quite sad that it has taken so much work for people to see it. I mean, it's a place that you can't go. It's men sitting behind consoles listening for tones. It's composite images. It's CGI. It's Photoshop, because it has to be. Truth of the matter is, their launches prove nothing. Their cartoons, well, prove nothing. Their ideas prove zero. Their satellite beepings mean nothing. Their graphics prove nothing. What they put in school books proves nothing. Their men in white coats prove squat. Just look into the history of their launches. Look at what they say they've done and when they say it was done. In 1957, Sputnik 2 was launched with a dog aboard. That was smart because it got people interested in the dog and the graphics. On December 6, 1957, the U.S. Navy launched Vanguard TV-3, carrying a 2.9-pound satellite. It reached an altitude of about 4 feet, fell, and exploded. The satellite was blasted off the top and landed in some nearby bushes. So now it was 1958, and after a few dumb moves again by the U.S., February came and America launched another attempt. This rocket went pretty well for almost a minute until it started to go off track and they sent a self-destruct command. And then in 1958, NASA was created and it's been all BS central since then. One lie after another, starting with possibly using rockets that were being made by Redstone and Werner von Braun. But the U.S. couldn't do that, you see. It was a PR issue. You know, they didn't tell Americans that we had taken the German scientists that had been the heads of prison camps and... Oh, don't touch that button. Yeah, that one. Don't touch that one. Okay, you have a lot to do with what's going on with the rockets. All of you do. So anyway, they were heads of prison camps and practicing mind control and testing drugs on human patients. We failed to tell our citizens that we had brought over more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians, put them in various places throughout the U.S. Yes, it's tough to tell your citizens that you have been teaching to hate and despise these Nazis, that you're going to be placing these Nazi members and Nazi leaders in various places throughout the U.S., often under assumed identities. The NASA Distinguished Service Medal, which is its highest award, has been given to 4 Germans from Operation Paperclip. The DoD Distinguished Civilian Award, its highest, was given to a paperclip scientist. The Goddard Astronautics Award went to 3 paperclip scientists, and 3 others are in the Space Camp Hall of Fame. The first director of the Kennedy Space Center is an Operation Paperclip scientist, and all of them are third right upper echelon, and they were relocated to the United States and given jobs, huge salaries, and all the benefits of being a U.S. citizen. In May of '45, Life magazine ran a series of photos from the concentration camps that stated the U.S. company line that, of course, countries such as Uruguay and Argentina were welcoming Nazis and should turn them over to stand trial. And yet, we had brought over 1,600 behind Americans' backs. When it started to get out, America went to damage control, using Werner von Braun in Disney movies and even picturing him with JFK. Sadly, he may have been one of the best. Where did the other 1,600 end up? So anyway, Operation Paperclip is another story. Let's get back to your belief in magic. Finally, in March, the United States got their satellite into orbit, and the following 4 flights, TV-5 and SLV-1, 2, and 3, also all failed. Then in March of '59, SLV-4 got a satellite into orbit, but SLV-5 and 6 also exploded. Now we make some attempts to get a payload onto the moon, or to even orbit the moon. But time and time again, they fail. No probe, no moon orbit, just explosion after explosion. Then in 1962, the USA tried to launch to Venus. Because we can't get to the moon, so let's try a Venus probe. You know, that planet 25 million plus miles away. Or sometimes it's 260 million miles away. So NASA introduces the Project Mercury astronauts, and again, repeated failures plague their launches. That is, until Shepard is launched into orbit. Because when you're banging them out at about a 20% success rate, I say, why not send up a human? And this is where the magic was turned up. Once they realized people were enamored with it, people loved it, Kennedy realized that space was going to get him reelected. Then the magic took off.
Drove the first wave of the Industrial Revolution, the first waves of modern invention, and the first wave of nuclear power. And this generation does not intend to founder in the backwash of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it.
Soon after, Russia sent a cosmonaut on a 16-orbit journey, and he returned the belle of the ball, and it was quickly seen that the world would believe in magic. The news realized that space was all the craze. It's all anyone wanted to talk about. With parades and homecomings, it was then realized that space equals dollars. And America went the way of if you can't make it, fake it. Winding through city streets packed with thousands, NASA saw what it had created. Movie stars. Decorated like heroes, watched by millions, talked about in every city nationwide, and treated like they were kings. And all it took was a little bit of magic. No, I do not. Then the U.S. turned its focus to the moon, again filled with failures, but all of a sudden Ranger 7, 8, and 9 returned pictures of the moon right up till the moment of impact. That's, of course, if you believe in magic. No, sorry. I do not believe like you believe. I do not believe that we couldn't get a satellite into orbit, but right after, we got men into orbit, no problem. And I do not believe that Ed White goes behind the curvature of Earth here either. Let's watch again. Whoa, watch out for that curve. Then Russia and the United States goes back and forth in a war of magic, including Russia returning 8 animals they sent in orbit of the moon. This all seems so legit. Why would you question it? So, of course, you know the rest of the story, the rest of the fairy tale. With issues through the early and mid-60s, by 69, we land man on the moon. No problem at all. The Great Space Race, or as I call it, the fantastic, psychopathic, tragic pageant of galactic magic. Take your pick. So, let's get back to Apollo Soyuz. This satellite here was placed in orbit 22,000 miles above Earth to be used in all Apollo-Soyuz communications. That's, of course, if you believe in magic. Here are some more cartoon visuals that intellectuals think are real. Do you believe this? Honestly, do you believe in magic? I mean, really, take a close look here and leave a comment in the comments below of whether or not you believe in magic. Look at these guys putting things together in the dark. That makes sense, wouldn't it? How about we go to the ABC News coverage?
Apollo, of course, has been in pursuit of the Soyuz ever since liftoff a couple of days ago.
That's another magic trick that no one ever questions. Why, when you send astronauts for a docking or to the ISS, does it take days? This makes no logical sense. Why not figure out a better time to send them so they don't have to spend 3 days in orbit? Just wasting money going round and round. Let's go to someone who actually knows what they're talking about.
ABC Science and Space Editor Jules Bergman is traditionally, as always, at the Mission Control in Houston. Jules, does it look as good from there as it does from here?
No, that does not look good. Look at the green screen. That's terrible. You need to get NASA to help you out here.
Tom Stafford steered his spaceship up beneath and behind Soyuz about a half an hour ago. I'm going to give you an idea now exactly of what happened. Both control centers, Kaliningrad or Moscow Control and Houston, have just given the okay for docking. And here's where they are and here's what happened. Soyuz, of course, was in a good orbit of about 140 miles altitude as Tom Stafford came in an Apollo with Vance Brenn and Deke Slayton, powered his spaceship up underneath Soyuz at about 150 feet distance, came in behind it in the station keeping or formation flying attitude they're now in. And that was to better measure the distance between them while both spacecraft commanders, Leonov and Stafford, made sure everything was okay, and while Moscow and Houston Control, as per the terms of the joint U.S.-Soviet agreement, decided whether docking was ready to proceed with. That decision has now been given, and we'd expect that anywhere in 5 to 15 minutes, probably less than that, probably 10 minutes, Stafford would proceed with the actual docking.
Watch carefully here as Jules realizes that he's talking about magic.
Was to turn these antennas here, if you can see them. Both spacecraft had to rotate some 60 degrees, roll 60 degrees. These are the antennas of the ATS satellite, the application technology satellite, 22,000 miles over the spacecraft, and the Earth can show us the picture of the docking, as we're about to get now. There is Soyuz, as seen from Apollo, the picture relayed from the ATS satellite we just spoke of.
Now watch as these little black shadows move in and out of the picture all over the screen. Enjoy.
Well, that is definitely a first, Jules, isn't it? A stunning photograph, Soyuz, with its panels, you know.
Blue, a very blue and white Earth below.
What the hell are those? Magic shadows, I guess? Or are they blurring out scuba divers? Who knows? Is this done in a warehouse? Is it done in a pool? No. Don't ask me again. Well, let's continue watching these mystery shadows. Hey, no one has even mentioned the speed of the craft or the curvature of the Earth yet. It's pretty crazy.
17,500 miles an hour they're both traveling, and the curvature of the Earth behind them.
Ah, never mind.
To ask one technical question, out there on either side of Soyuz, that spot in the distance is, of course, where the power is gathered and contained, right?
The panels are, of course, as you said, the solar panels that give Soyuz its electricity.
I have to ask you again. Do you guys believe in magic?
And we're seeing one of the VHF antennas, we think, sticking up in front of Apollo on the docking module. Indeed, the picture in the very foreground there is the black shadow of the Apollo docking module. And now you can see Soyuz. It was a little further away than we've been led to expect. We'd say Soyuz is now about 120 or 30 feet away from Apollo. And there's Stafford moving in ever so slowly, but not too slowly. One of the tricks of docking like this, as Stafford has told me, is you can't go too slow, otherwise you won't know what your rate of closure or range rate is. And indeed, you may hit the other fellow. So you've got to keep some speed up, some feeling of motion up, and as you can see, it's like moving in very slowly to find your garage door at night in your yard.
Wow, Jules Bergman is full of shit.
And
Jules, I also get the impression that Soyuz there, which is probably not looking as good on a black and white monitor at home, a television set at home, as it is to us, unfortunately, seems to be rising occasionally. Or is that just the closness?
I think that's the closeness, Peter. There are some slight inertial variations in the attitude of both spacecraft, but Soyuz is stable. Leonov and Kubasov have turned off their power and turned off all electricity except what they need for life functions. All the work and the power is being done here by Apollo. Stafford is using his RCS, or reaction control system thrusters, in very small braking maneuvers. Actually, he was already going fast enough to ensure the docking.
Anyone else notice that the Earth stopped moving? Watch as it reappears here. Earth stopped.
Jules, despite this weightless condition, is it not true that these...
Yep, there you go. Bingo. It is not true. Very good. Spacecrafts are not true.
Even though going both in the same direction and both at the same speed, they could do considerable damage.
Oh, they'd puncture one another if they collided, or at least put a dent in one another, Peter. The speed, as you say, is relative to your mass and energy.
Oh boy. Well, if you are watching this and you think that what we're seeing is in space, then you believe in magic. Plain and simple. You trust men. Men who have backed a space industry that has provided nothing to humanity while taking $5 trillion from citizens of this world. That's one hell of a hoax, and yet people still want to argue on behalf of NASA.
That was the antenna used at 7 o'clock this morning for Stafford to establish the distance between the two spacecraft, where he first found they were about 240 miles apart. Now you're hearing Stafford and Leonov in the final part of the docking. They're getting ready to dock.
3 meters.
9 feet.
1 meter.
3 feet.
Contact. Capture. We also
Capture,
have
they're docked.
Freemasonic, lying clowns. It's time to wake up, folks. It's movie magic. Nothing more than a hoax. A scam, a ruse.
Everything is excellent.
Soyuz and Apollo are shaking hands now.
Alexei Leonov saying
We agree.
that the two capsules have themselves shaken hands and a few hours away from the actual handshake between Tom Stafford and Alexei Leonov. Jules, what happens now? Now, you see, they say they've made contact and captured.
Capture, the latches are engaged. They have to check that out, Peter, and go through a long checklist.
No, I do not believe in the lies of NASA. I don't believe in the lies of Roscosmos or ESA or JAXA or SpaceX or Blue Origin or Moon Express or any of the other space agencies because I don't believe in magic. But that's just my opinion. You are free to your opinion, and I'm free to mine. So be kind, don't lie, and don't fake space. Open your mind, find your own truth. Till next time, this has been Jaronism.